he said, like, I just said John's on here, and what if John wants to talk? And so Mike said, oh, I'll come up, Jackie, I gotta check something.
Well, it might
just unmute himself.
Yeah. It's just not audio not coming through though.
We haven't tried.
Oh,
Would you be able to hear him talk though?
yeah. Hey, John, can you hear us?
Okay. Would he hear me talk?
No, he wouldn't because it goes through that. So you should have a microphone. Then he'd be able to hear you. But now I'm worried that we might have to turn our audio on though too.
I turned it off.
Okay. Hey John, can you hear us all right? Maybe Mike's on to something then. Oh, there he goes.
I can. Thank you, Adam.
Oh, he can?
You can hear us all right? Okay. I think it's working. John could talk to us. He could hear us. We could hear him.
Not the carbs I needed.
What's McCalvy's first name? Kevin. Kevin, yes. Well, his wife is. I'm not gonna go for every week.
Wow. Have you ever shared it? Next time I see Karen, I want to.
Kevin brings it right to work. You didn't have to go
I'm
in.
serious. That's what that's too late.
Everybody shared recipes. Everybody's baking, taking a picture.
Well, think about something like that, how to start.
Pretty good. How are you?
Easter.
Not really.
Oh, yeah?
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I said, person comes in, I have to, but that's fine.
You gotta deal with everything.
So her stuff, we like.
So you're ready to get this knee replacement done and over with. Yeah. I'll blame you. When is that again?
Oh, no, I like
17.
I love it.
Oh, yeah.
It's all right, Kevin and I get it.
But you get toasted on a platter.
Then you get Patty Lloyd.
So we're not in a.
Honey,
You get Pat, she
She
does.
had a pretty good turnaround on feeling better and that. Oh,
Oh,
so there's that much time?
Yes, all this book
I
was.
just buy.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a reason I have.
Yeah, I've heard different stories on that.
I
It's
just
like
got it.
almost instantaneously feel better, but maybe that's more of a hip thing than a knee thing. You know. Day after surgery, he could walk better. Felt better. He brings the pain of the surgery. Yeah.
How are ya? I don't think I have much candy in there. I know the day he came, make sure I ate it all. I was like, I bet there's gonna be here today, I'll make sure I eat all that.
Because I want to get it in so I don't have.
That's what I did for Nick, my son Nick.
Oh.
Same way, he's just.
Yeah, no, today was just a conversation.
Do you want to wait a few more minutes?
Yeah, maybe.
Just had to go to the hospital with
I'm not seeing any of the.
Yeah.
knock on wood.
It's gonna be this short of a meeting.
I know.
My employees.
I know, I want her to.
Okay, so I thought you were gonna put like a roof over it.
Yeah, I know.
Like, we were kind of hoping for that.
Wow.
And I was really hoping more of the city folks would be here more than the
Well,
town.
I told my son and he said I would be there in a few hours. He said it's first of the month check. Something down and saying.
Okay.
I'm shocked that someone.
Aren't those the two cities we've had?
And Bartle made a comment that they would like to.
Yeah.
And they were, you had this posted and they were all aware of it, right?
Yeah, you sent this a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
And I sent a reminder last week. Oh, okay, Karen's here, she's here for Clarissa.
I just went back to Jolene. I said, Mom, so we shall sell it. All the way around. She's like, no, no, so we shall sell it.
This is right in the city. That's what they say, and that's what they say, so make sure you get your towns, that the tax bill is sold. I knew the area, this smells like cross.
We must be, Lou just posted a picture out there last night.
We're fighting for shares.
Yeah.
I moved my stepson in the, place in Buffalo, and the neighbor, I live on segregation. Their garden sheds, plants, they were, you're from Vegas? You walk anywhere, I'll say, right, on the strip, right, we're just constantly.
Go to the casino, Minnesota, and about die.
At the Washington football game, the week to go to
Barn, we went out on the boat a little bit. Oh my God, it's so nice.
At a local bar around here?
Sit on the deck.
Isn't that still public space sort of thing? Same with the football thing, that shocks me.
Oh, I just saw
It was, I mean, there was a lot of,
What's I'm saying?
back and forth about that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, you see, in a parking lot, or grocery store, you'll see,
Sure.
they just lit up like they're in there.
Yeah.
It's not better than owning, you know,
Well, you think anybody else is coming? We can just get started if they come in. Okay. I think we're gonna get started here. The crowd is much smaller than we anticipated, so I have my little outline here. With the crowd being as small as it is, we might as well do introductions of everybody here. I wasn't going to do that of everybody, but we can do that. Maybe I'll introduce for you because the microphones pick up the sound here. So for anybody online in the room here, we have myself. I'm Adam Osford. I'm the Planning and Zoning Director here in Todd County. We have in the room, we have Dean Schultes from Round Prairie Township, Larry Bebis from Birchdale Township. We have Commissioners Bob Byers and Barb Becker, our County Auditor Treasurer Denise Gaida, and County Coordinator Jackie Bauer. Online, John Lindeman is a county attorney, and then is it Karen from the city of Clarissa? That's the whole gang for today. And unfortunately, a lot of the things I had outlined to discuss today involve much more of the city involvement and how we're gonna make this cannabis registration and licensing work. And then also it really would impact both Bertha and Bruce Townships as they do their own planning and zoning. And I did reach out to Bev yesterday. She was emailing me about something else, which triggered me to ask, are you gonna be there tomorrow? Radio silence after that. So I took that as, no, I'm not gonna be there. So our whole purpose of today was really just to start a conversation about the cannabis ordinance and the implementation of this and how the cities and those particular townships that implement their own rules are gonna interact with the county, because there's the land use side of things, but there's also the licensing and registration aspect. And part of the statute talks about limiting the retail sites to 3 per 12,500 citizens in the county. So if we're gonna keep true track of how many of those are out there, you really need a central hub to bring those registrations together. If each individual city was doing it on their own, that complicates things quite a bit. Not that they can't go that way, but we wanted to just throw that proposal out to everybody. And so unfortunately, the conversation isn't gonna go very far today with the small group that we really have.
Do you want me to report on these?
Sure, if you want to. You might have to grab. You do.
Okay, I can grab one. Otherwise, okay.
Here's this one.
Okay, so, okay, and this is Jackie, we did over the last month prior to today's meeting, and we're trying to make sure, I think, that we provide every opportunity for gathering as much input as we possibly can from across Todd County. So I had sent out just a survey to kind of get an idea from all of our townships and towns whether they were planning to adopt their own ordinance for cannabis retail businesses, take no action, or delegate their registration authority to Todd County. And the majority, and I didn't get all 40 of the towns and townships, but the majority did return them. And most of them did determine they wanted to delegate their authority to Todd County. However, the city of Browerville and the city of Staples are both planning to adopt their own ordinance. The city of Long Prairie is still conferring with their legal on what direction they want to take. And then we had Leslie Township and Fawn Lake Township and Reynolds Township state that they would take no action. So just wanted to share that based on the surveys that we received.
Those are kind of the responses I guess I would have expected from those townships that don't do their own planning and zoning stuff, that they would continue to do that and just let the county handle that. And similar responses from the city, that they would implement their own ordinance on the land use side of things and setbacks, where they can go, how it applies across the different zoning districts, which is great because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, commissioners that are in the room here, but I don't think our board's looking to make decisions on behalf of those cities. But on the other half, the other part of this is the licensing and registration of it to know what's all out there. I think similar to like liquor license, even in the city, they come to the county to get that. So that's kind of my comparison of how this would work. Unfortunately, I was going to reach out to or ask for the cities for their input, and we only have the city of Clarissa here. So if I can open that up to Karen here, if you have any comments you want to provide on any conversations that the city of Clarissa is having on this topic and what you guys are looking to do, both for drafting an ordinance, but also your input on the licensing and registration process and how you feel the city of Clarissa handling that.
I think we discussed it just a little bit at our last meeting, but I told him I would come back with some more information after this meeting today. Our consensus was kind of that we would just have the county, you guys have more experience with this, well, not with this particular thing, but more experience probably overall with this kind of thing. And so we're deferring to you guys to, our input is, yeah, we don't really care to have one in our town, but, a business is a business, so. And that's about where we left it at our last meeting.
Okay.
So I'm sure we'll probably talk more about it in a couple of weeks for our next meeting.
Sure, and if I can provide any direction or input on that, I guess I would encourage the city to draft their own ordinance so you have the enforcement of the rules within your boundaries of the city, but then again, the actual registration of the cannabis business could come to the county. And again, for the purpose, if we really do want to limit the retail aspect, having the central location here to really keep tabs on that is really what makes the most sense to me. I will give you a heads up that there is, and maybe we can email this to you, but there is a model ordinance out there that you can just plug and play. It has blank spaces. I can send it to you. It is on, I think, the Office of Cannabis Management website, where you can just plug in City of Clarissa into all these blank spaces. They're all highlighted or whatever, and you basically can adopt something very similar to what the county is looking to adopt here. So that is out there to make the process much easier for you.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, so reach out with any questions or anything. I can send you to the website or whatever and help you find those resources that are out there.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
So now are you saying that you are encouraging the cities to draft their own ordinances?
Right. In my eyes, we don't have jurisdiction within those cities. So if they don't draft their own ordinance, it's maybe a free-for-all, which you absolutely have the right to not have an ordinance. You can just let businesses come in and look at your own, if they're building a new structure or something, whatever your existing setbacks and stuff would apply. But if you want to have some level of regulation on these cannabis businesses within whatever jurisdiction it is, I think it would be important that the cities look to this. And there is, again, there's a model ordinance out there that was in the statute when this whole legislation came through, that the Office of Cannabis Management must provide a model ordinance for these governmental jurisdictions to work from.
So, and if the cities would have to vote and put this in effect before December 31st, same as the county, correct?
That would, to me, make the most sense, because you have that period of time where it's legal, you can have a business, but maybe you don't have any rules in place. So you're looking, if you want to make sure you have things in place before the business opens, it makes sense to get it done before the end of the year.
Okay, and if the county drafts one, and the city adopt what the county drafts?
And that's what I'm working off of now, basically the same thing.
That's what the cities are waiting for.
Yep.
Excuse me, can you repeat the questions, because they're not hearing?
Oh, sure. And the question was if cities should look to draft their own ordinance before the end of the year here, similar to what the county's looking to do. And yeah, and you heard my answer. My recommendation would be absolutely do that. Otherwise, you don't have any regulations at the time when a business could come in and try to get established. And again, the resources are out there. It actually, in the first part of it, actually says city/county. So it's really, the model ordinance is designed for any level of local government, including townships. But I know in talking with Bruce Township, they were essentially going to take the county's ordinance and make it their own. So I hope that they're prepared to cram that in, because this, for reality, for the county, it might be that second commissioners meeting in December when this gets adopted. You know, if it takes that much time to get through and do the due diligence from this point, that leaves some of those others that are kind of follow suit with us very limited time to get there.
Adam, do you want to kind of go through just a bit about the whole option of limiting businesses and what the
Sure.
State of Minnesota is guiding us based on our population across Todd County, and what the
Sure.
magic number is if the county decides they want to limit?
Yeah, so any jurisdiction has the option to limit only the retail businesses. Any other sort of business doesn't have the limitation. The retail sites can be limited to one business per 12,500 citizens. So because we have Clarissa on the call here, I'll pick on you guys. I don't know what the population of Clarissa is, but I know it's less than 12,500. You would be required to have at least one within the boundaries of Clarissa. If you have 12,501 citizens, you're required to have two. It doesn't go to that next threshold to get to another site. So within Todd County as a whole, we could limit the retail sites to 3, I believe is the number. Because we're just a hair over 25,000 or something like that, or 26,000.
Jackie, ask Adam the question. They don't have to have one business in there. They're okay with having 0 business within the town?
So the question is, do you have to allow for 1, or can you restrict it to 0? And the answer is, if you have 1 citizen in your jurisdiction, you have to allow 1. If somebody comes with an application to establish a retail business and you have 0, you have to allow at least 1. And if you have 12,501 citizens, you have to allow at least 2. So, and that's where, I guess, if as a whole, and that's why I was hoping there's more people, across the county, including the cities at this point, when it comes to the registration, you look at the population of the county as a whole, we could limit it if we wanted to 3 total across the county. So if all 3 of those were, well, it wouldn't make sense to be in any of the cities because their population's so much less, but you could end up with 1 in Staples, 1 in Browerville, 1 in Long Prairie, and then that's it. But the city could make a decision to not abide by that, and they could license or as many as they want in that. So that's where it gets a little bit goofy if we're not all on the same page about what our objectives are within the county. And the conversation has to be had about how do we really want to limit. Obviously, you can see both sides of the argument. This is a new thing. Maybe we don't want all these retail shops. We don't want to be known as the Cannabis County or anything, but you're also missing out on this potential economic aspect that comes with it too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Another question, licensing, now like alcohol, the cities license their own alcohol. Does cannabis work the same, townships go through the county?
yeah.
Liquor goes through the cities, how does this work?
Well, that's what the conversation was hopefully going to be, is make that proposal to everybody today that everything, you could issue your own, like we're proposing that every type of business have a conditional use permit. So that's the land use side of things, and the cities could do that same thing. They would issue the permit for building permits, land use, whatever, but the licensing or registration aspect would all funnel to the county. And the way I envision that being is that we get some sort of notification from that city that, yes, they've met all of our requirements, we're gonna issue these permits. So that's one of the checkoffs when it comes to the county, that they've met the requirements to issue a license. Did I understand that wrong, that all liquor license cities issue their own, everything countywide comes to the county?
No.
Oh,
Cities
do issue their own. Okay,
The only time it's issued through the county is if it's an establishment outside of a city limit.
okay, similar to
That's
how our
in the-
planning and zoning ordinance works with
Yes.
that. Okay, all right.
Yes, Midway would come through us. Thunder Lodge
Yep.
comes through us.
Another thing that just popped into my mind on this retail side of things, that limitation of retail is not restricting the low dose, the gummies and stuff we have out there now. This would be things, the newer aspect of it.
So do you think, when you say retail, is that a standalone, that's all they sell? Or could like Casey's or Holiday Gas or
Sure,
Jim and Judy's, could they be there, if they sell it, then?
they could. If they met all the requirements of the statute and the rule, they could get licensed. But what I envision, like a local gas station or local liquor store, is the low dose edibles. And those aren't restricted. So you still, that's the thing that's gonna change for a lot of these existing businesses, is they've gotten a free pass so far because it came legal, but they're going to have to still register for the state now when this transition happens. But that is not limited.
I think like up in Fargo, some of those convenience stores that are like independents that own maybe 6 or 7 convenience stores are selling out to smoke shops.
Sure.
And it's a, part of their side of the business. There's the gas side and there's the other side. So, I mean, I would think that could happen here, but.
Yeah.
And again, Adam, they originate though, if a business wants to sell or be in the business, everything originates down at the Office of Cannabis Management.
Yep.
They do all the front end vetting and determining whether or not this business initially gets into the lottery for a license.
Yep.
But then also eventually they'll open it up completely. But it all begins down there.
Yep. And then, and you have to have sites identified, and then they do the background check. There's a list of people who are not eligible to get a license, and they do all that front end review even before they come to the county to get permitting or anything.
And I think even the enforcement of what the products that they're selling and everything happens from that state office as well.
Yes, and we would be, just like anything else, in charge of enforcing the local ordinance, but the licensing aspect and all the stuff that's in the rule or the statute, that's, to my understanding, also is going to be reviewed on a periodic basis by that Office of Cannabis Management.
And the county attorney is on our Zoom here today too, so he may have thoughts to chime in.
Is there anyone in
So
our,
far, so good, guys.
is there anyone in our immediate area that's already up and running with this? I mean, I know we were at AMC, there was that Becker County or somewhere up north?
Clay County, I know, drafted an ordinance months ago.
Maybe it was
It's
Clay County.
it's really short, and I was in an email chain because he was sending it out. I forget
Yeah,
the
that's up by
gentleman's name.
Holly in there, right? Yeah.
No, Clay is,
Yeah, that'd be
Fargo
more
area,
than-
right?
Morgan.
Yeah. But he was like, we're gonna have to amend this, but we wanted to get out in front of it and have an ordinance here. And a lot of the setbacks and stuff they took, that's right in the rule here, so they just brought that in and adopted it locally. That's the only one I know of for sure that has an ordinance drafted at the county level.
In my mind, the real question is, are we gonna limit it to 3? To me,
That's the big
I mean, out of
question.
this whole deal, is it gonna be 3, that's it, or is it gonna be, more?
Right. And we could set some other standard of limitation as long as we're not more restrictive than what the statute says of the 12,500. So maybe we could say we'll do 1 per 8,000 citizens or something like that. It's inverse. Usually counties can be more restrictive than what the state standards are, but this here, the way it's written is the inverse of that.
And I think too, Adam and I have had conversations too about the fact that maybe we begin with a limitation to see what occurs and recommending that to the commissioners as a beginning. And then it can go back and you can actually rescind that and open it up.
You could.
The
Yep.
county could determine that, hey, this is working okay, and maybe we do, we're feeling good about it, and maybe we want to open it up now. But I mean, a beginning period could be, let's limit it as a trial. Why?
Don't you feeling good?
I didn't even play on words. I didn't even know what I said. Because we could get into the weeds and we could do all that, right? Everybody's saying those things, yeah.
I mean, I just would think that there's potentially a Long Prairie, Staples, and those bigger communities. Now Browerville says they might, and
So that's the real, I think that's going to be one of the largest conversations is, do we limit that retail aspect? So right now, I did, if you didn't grab one, I did have the draft of what I have for the cannabis ordinance up here. I did leave it in there for now as in the draft that we would limit it to the 3 total, which is based on the 12,500.
just in casual conversations with different, I think there's plenty of online purchases of stuff like this.
Sure.
Whether it be a sleep aid or something for joint and pain management or whatever the case may be, it seems like.
So the argument could be made that we're losing potential business
I
to
don't know.
online retailers.
I have no idea what that amounts to. Maybe they'd sell way
Yeah.
much cheaper either. I'm not looking for it, but I'm just saying.
Sure.
That, in my few discussions I had at that AMC conference, that's what I heard, so.
Sure. Good discussion. I was going to look to.
But the other thing is I would, just like on the liquors, there should potentially be some type of usage tax that the county can collect.
Sure,
at some point.
that's a Chris Odden question, which we could maybe have him come to another one.
No, we have to generate more revenue for the county and.
Sure.
Wouldn't it be a sales tax?
Yeah.
He's not talking a tax, like, he's talking a
yeah.
sales tax.
Like a sales,
Okay,
yeah, not like
yeah.
on the land,
That's something we could
I don't
look
want people
into.
telling me
I have not looked into the sales tax aspect. I know that some of the application fees and stuff that the businesses will pay to the state comes back to the county. And we can obviously charge fees for our applications and the licensing application, all that stuff, but we are limited on what our maximum rate can be on that. So, and it lays it out in that ordinance what those fees will be. I just put it at the max for now. Right, that makes sense to me. And then the other part of when they come and try to apply for the CUP, that would just follow our county fee schedule. But we could look just like applications for plating or anything like that. We have a separate fee than the CUP on that. So we could look at this separate fee schedule for cannabis related applications too, if that's something we wanted to do.
I think that's a good idea, like in Osakis or places that have lodging, there's that lodging tax.
Sure.
So there could be this cannabis tax, which is a sales tax added on.
Sure.
Or like when you go stay in St. Cloud, you stay at a hotel, there's the city tax, the lodging tax, the hotel tax. I don't want to tax people to death, but if we're losing revenue off of this and the sales are gonna start coming.
Yeah, it's one of those things, just like, nobody's gonna, we gotta pay a quarter more for my case of beer, nobody's gonna say. Actually, people are gonna say, who bought it, if we gotta pay X amount more for your gummy or whatever you're doing. But the county gets, something gotta pay for it.
Okay, I made a note of that. We can
Okay.
look into that more.
And we have some township representatives here, so
Yep.
I don't know if they have any comments that they would like to add. We can give you the microphone. On,
I think everybody's talking about cities and everything now, but I know that I've driven on some roads going down to southern Minnesota. We're out in the middle of nowhere. There are people that are selling the low dose stuff right now. So yeah, I think townships have to be aware, and they have to be they have to know what's going on with this, because people are going to slide in and out of here easy, and the taxes and stuff. I think you need to have taxes on that stuff, but at the same time, what's it going to be? Is if you're going to have it in Todd County, and somebody in Osakis who lives in Douglas County, do they drive the extra 5 miles so they don't have to pay whatever kind of tax? I mean, you look at some of the places like the reservations. I grew up in Minneapolis and spent a lot of time in southwestern Minneapolis area, and when they opened up some of the reservations for like liquor and cigarettes and stuff, there was a mass. I mean, you couldn't even count the cars going down there, because they would go down there and buy stuff and not pay any taxes. So I mean, there's a line that you can't. Yeah, you can do it, but what is it? Because if it's too much, you're talking about additional income for the county. If you do it too much, you're going to lose everything for the county.
Do you have any comments, Dean? Not that you have to, but we want to hear from you if you do.
I guess my question is, if you're gonna limit it to 3 and you have 8 applications, who decides who gets a license or not?
Sure. The general answer we've gotten to that is same at the state level, is it's essentially first come, first serve. And you have to meet all the qualifications. And so if you get through that process and you're cleared, you're at the front of the line.
So these applications for licenses, that include low dose and then also the marijuana sales, or is just?
The low dose isn't affected by that restriction. What you have out there now could, every convenience store, liquor store, pop-up shop, whatever, is not restricted. That doesn't fall under that retail category.
And I like what Jackie said, start out small. We have a son that's a police officer in the metro area, and he's really concerned about too much of this going on. It's hard to enforce.
Sure.
Right now. And if you open that up to unlimited, who knows what's gonna happen? I mean, it's bad enough with alcohol on the road, but now when you add the marijuana on the road, that could create a whole nother problem. I think Colorado saw that. They opened theirs wide open, and they had all kinds of problems with injuries and lawsuits, and I don't know that Todd County wants to get involved with that kind of thing either. So if it does go through, I would say start small. And if it's all about money, you might as well open it up unlimited so that the county can get all they can, but then you got more issues. So there's gotta be a balance there, I think.
Sure.
It's, you can get THC in a beer now. They have THC flavored beer. They have, so we probably don't have a clue as to all the products that are out there, but I think you're right. There's definitely a balance that's got to be walked in the beginning, or maybe the whole time.
You need to have a balance on this stuff, but when you look at it realistically too, I mean, stand on the street corner and see how many kids go into Casey's and come out with 3 bags of Doritos, a couple of bags of cookies, and a bunch of pop. And I mean, it's there. It's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, to legalize it, to do that, I think I agree with everybody else that start out small and see where it goes, and increase stuff, then you increase it. If you don't, then
Sure.
And another question I have is who would enforce it? Who would enforce all these, businesses? To, like, with alcohol and cigarettes now, there's spot checks. Is that gonna happen with this also?
Yeah, that happens from the Office of Cannabis Management. The enforcement of the local ordinance would fall on the county, but like going to the business and looking and making sure they're not selling things they're not supposed to sell. I don't know what other aspects they look at, but there's like lighting and security and video cameras and all this different aspects that they need to meet that's in the rule already. That would be enforced by the state.
Is there age limit?
21. For purchasing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it's 21.
How about for growing?
I guess I don't know the answer to that. Find an answer.
Grow it. Be cultivated or delivered.
Sure.
And that was another delivery is a part of the business too. I don't think that's limited by.
By age or not?
Yeah, so if you're selling retail in Long Prairie and somebody in Round Prairie or whatever, Swanville wants it and they wanna order it, you deliver it, cause you know.
You said the state enforces it, but who is the state enforcer?
Who do they enforce it on?
Well, no, but if somebody is selling to minors, who, you said the state is gonna enforce that, but who does the checking on that?
No, I'm saying the state does the checking on it. They come down and do spot checks on all the license holders that they've issued license to.
You said the state and they, I was just kinda curious.
Oh,
what,
sure.
you know,
Yeah.
Yeah,
what that is.
yeah.
It's
the Office of Cannabis Management.
Yeah.
They're loading up staff, I think, as quick as they can now.
They are, they have stated they will have a 1-800 number also, so that, you know, if a person finds that they think there's violations, they can call that number and they would send somebody from their office, but they stated they'll be in charge of that type of enforcement.
I was talking to some lady that worked in one of the stores in Sauk Center, and she said, yeah, they got busted. They were selling stuff that was stronger than whatever 9%.
Sure.
Okay. One of our township representatives just mentioned that there was a store in Sauk Center selling the low potency, but they were spot checked already and they were selling too high of a level above their low potency and they were cited.
Anything else?
You know, the growing was brought up. How is that looked at by the state? Is that looked at as just like a agricultural growing kind of crop, or is that a retail crop?
Well, you need to have a license. It falls under the statute to grow it. But I don't know how they view that. I guess are you asking that for like if it's I guess I don't know what you're asking specifically, but the licensing of it and growing of it is identified in this.
Like you get a license, but is it considered retail because you're growing it for sales?
Oh, right. You will have those that have multiple license types, right? They may grow it and sell it for retail, but not everybody will do that. There'll be there's a bunch of different license types here. I can try to find it quick.
How is that controlled?
How's that controlled?
If I want to grow 10,000 plants, is it
Is
my
it by the plant or is it by the acre?
I
Is
don't
it a
know.
license? I don't know either.
But, who is responsible for, growing it and seeing that, the neighborhood kids don't come over and steal half of it? Or they, let it grow to its whatever good size and then the neighbors come over and pick them up and take them home?
I'm confident the answer to that is in this giant rule and in the
Right,
statute.
packet.
I just don't know that right off the top of my head here.
Right. All of this is kind of being rolled out, throughout the last few months by the Office of Cannabis Management. And, They've been going out to various meetings and trying to get county staff up to date on all of it, but they themselves are, delving into a lot of it at the time that they're giving us the information. So, yes, Bob.
So it says, cultivation, it is lawful to grow up to 8 cannabis plants with a maximum of 4 being mature in Minnesota. Cultivation must take place at the primary residence of an adult 21 years or older. The plants may be grown outdoors.
I think that applies to personal use.
Oh, that's personal use?
Yep. I'm confident it's in here. Where was I looking yesterday? I may not find it immediately. I'll keep looking for it if you want to continue the conversation here.
And I know they've got the Office of Cannabis Management regarding cultivators and growers has every aspect covered, I believe, in the rules they've put out. Everything from the odor, ventilation, the lighting, like you mentioned, security, the waste, the water use. I think they've addressed all of that within that. But again, I think a lot of that is being handled down there in their office, their staff. So.
They will not have enough people to go out and check on everybody. I mean, what happens?
Do you think so?
You know,
There'll be.
If you have 10 instead of 8.
I think you can actually go out on their website, the Office of Cannabis Management for the state of Minnesota, and you can start to see some of the numbers of applications, what they're called our early applicants for licensure, and they're starting to put out some of the data. So it's kind of interesting. If you're curious, you can go and take a look at that to see what kind of numbers, and they may even have a map of where some of those applications are looking, or at least are coming from across the state of Minnesota. I don't know if you looked at that, Adam, but I mean, right now, a majority is in the metro area, which is where the sales, are gonna be highest.
So cultivation of cannabis, it's separated into a section here about indoor cultivation, and there's a separate section on outdoor cultivation. It's just, this is all the requirements that the proposed size and layout of the area be used exclusively for cultivation. They need to have plans of water usage and other utilities, plans for wastewater disposal and solid waste disposal, plans for recycling of any supplies or environmental inputs for cultivation, pest management, procedures for record keeping, a description of the batch number and plant identifier controls, growing schedules, harvest timelines, method for drying, curing, and storage, and plans for security. It doesn't appear to have a set restriction on how, like, if you have a field, it says you need to identify the canopy acreage for cultivation, but I'm not immediately seeing that there is a restriction on how big that area be. Anything else? I was going to hopefully, along with those cities, get some input from Bruce and Bertha Township, so thank you for your input today. You got a copy of the draft ordinance there. That will go to the Planning Commission this Thursday night, 6 p.m. in this room. So if you want to come and provide some public input, you'll get a chance to speak on that. That'll be the first time the Planning Commission sees it. I imagine we take this to work sessions as we move along and kind of give periodic updates to the Board of Commissioners. And then I would imagine this is going to be a 2-3 month process. It might take into December before we're done with it. I talked a little bit about the county's perspective already about being the center for the registration, so we can really have a central hub of what's registered out there throughout the county. I wanted to see if we should schedule another meeting right today with everybody here, but I don't know that that's worth even talking about.
Yeah, maybe what we'll do is move forward with the planning and, the planning commission meeting.
Sure.
And then from there, maybe we make some reach outs personally to the two
cities.
townships particularly,
Yep.
because they do their own planning and
Right.
zoning, correct?
Yep.
They're the two of the 28, I think, that do their own
That's
planning and
correct.
zoning. And then also maybe we'll reach out to our cities as well again. But, and then maybe schedule another meeting. We need to have this in place by January 1st, 2025, which is when this begins.
Yeah, and I mean, absolute worst case scenario, we do have that very, very last week of the year meeting, but I know you guys the board likes to use that for very specific things, so if we can get this done at the second meeting in December, that would be the ideal, or sooner, but
Right.
just to try to avoid using that last meeting.
We're not
Plus, we wouldn't have another planning commission meeting anyway.
Right.
So, okay.
And we're not behind. When I talk to the other counties, the other 86 counties in Minnesota, the other administrators and coordinators, everyone's kind of right at the same point we are.
Sure.
And everyone's kind of waiting, to see what others are doing. Someone like Clay, they're moving quickly because they're on the border. And as a border county, they already know they're going to be, inundated with
Sure.
with applicants. So, yeah.
The other thing I wanted to note, if you guys are interested, but for the city of Clarissa, there are a bunch of resources online, including if you go to the Office of Cannabis Management website, there is the model ordinance out there. The Office of Cannabis Management also has the first draft of the cannabis rule on there, which is not implemented yet, it's in draft phase. You can find a copy of the statute. Find a copy of the statute on the reviser's website. And then I don't know what the League of Minnesota Cities has out there for resources, but AMC, this is another one, this is Guide for Local Governments on Adult Use Cannabis is from the Office of Cannabis Management, but then the Association of Minnesota Counties had this Cannabis Planning and Zoning for Minnesota Counties document, which might be somewhat helpful for cities also. So there are resources out there to review. Some of them are really heavy reading, but these two here have been pretty good. The Cannabis Planning and Zoning for Counties and this Guide for Local Governments are much smaller documents, but they were pretty helpful along the way here. Otherwise, I didn't have anything else to work through today.
I popped the website up there in the chat on
Perfect.
OCM.
Yep, that's gonna be your main go-to resource.
MNGov. Yeah, that's the way it comes up, but.
Any other closing thoughts from anybody?
I think, Adam, that going forward, I think we're gonna have to start having some work sessions on this.
Yep,
December's gonna go fast.
yeah, that's what you're just like, we'll bring this to the planning commission this Thursday night and have that initial discussion. I doubt, well, actually, I know they're not going to draft or adopt anything because I have not completed that thing yet. There's input I want to know how to finish it.
Yeah.
But then I think in between each of those planning commission meetings, we can do work session update. What'd you think? What input do the commissioners have that I can bring back to the planning commission then? So we're probably looking at maybe 2 or 3 planning commission hearings, 2 or 3 work sessions, and then adoption of that in the middle part of December.
Right, because once the planning commission approves it, then that puts a timeline on the commission.
We don't have a timeline when it's ordinance stuff initiated by the county. We're not subject to 1599, the 6-day rule with ordinance stuff. So no timeline stuff, but we are in a time crunch just based on that moratorium if we want to get things done before the start of the year.
And I'd like to have that discussion too with planning and zoning board.
Yeah.
They're good on it.
Absolutely.
I mean,
So-
at the end of the day, a slow roll seems like the way smarter way to go.
Was that another
We got
pun?
a lot of,
Slow roll, okay.
so I would say, I mean, we know we're gonna have 3 minimum,
Yep,
and,
we'll use them.
figure it out. because
Yep.
It's not, I don't even know half the terminology, people come in and, what about this, what about that, I don't know what that is. It's like they're talking military, ATV, ATC, and, I don't know. So we don't even know, so slow is, to me, is better.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay, I didn't have anything else, but any closing comments or anything, but otherwise maybe keep an eye out if we do have another one of these meetings to get the other governmental agencies throughout the county back together, we'll try to get that notice out in advance. So if there's potential, we'll do something like this again with hopefully better turnout.
Right.
So
All
we'll see.
right.
All we can do is try.
Thank-
All right,
Thank
that's it.
you, and thank you for those
you.
joining us on Zoom.
Thank y'all.